do you think life is all about? Today, we're going to be talking about 3 approaches to life, and depending on where you fall under one of those approaches, it kind of tells the world how you approach life and what you think it's all about. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to Looking Up. If you're a listener, welcome back. Hope you had a great holiday season and a happy new year. If you're new, this is a podcast for Christian women. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kathy Pollard, and with me is Carla Moore, and we're your hosts. Carla is in Dripping Springs, Texas, and I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And our goal for this podcast is from Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2, encouraging each other to keep looking up no matter what's going on and to set our minds on things above, not on things of the earth. And we pretty much just get together every week to talk about whatever we want to talk about. We'll chat a little bit about our personal lives, and then we'll engage in conversation about a particular topic. I'm excited about today's topic, and we would just invite you to grab your favorite drink, pull up a chair, sit with us, if you will, at the table. And Carla, we have completely switched places because now I'm the one with the dark hair and you're the one with the light hair. It's kind of a Freaky Friday moment going on here.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing earlier, and we haven't even talked about it yet. But yeah, now I've never, ever, ever in my life been a blonde. And I really wasn't thinking that I was going to be a blonde when I started this process. But yeah,
It looks good.
you still look blonde though.
Well, that's just old growth.
Yeah, I don't know. If it's gray, it looks blonde on the recording. But yes, as I've been planning on doing this. I've been like psyching myself up for it. You know that the gray blending process, and I just couldn't ditch the dye like you did because otherwise it would grow in, skunk, and I would have this big white stripe across the top of my head. And I guess I could. I mean, lots of people have done it, but I personally didn't want to do that. So I talked to my friend and my hairstylist, Julia Lloyd. Lots of people down here go to her. And she said, "Oh yeah, we'll put in some highlights or lowlights and toner and blah blah blah, all these other words that I don't know anything about." And but it still ended up that day of the appointment, she said, "Yeah, it'll be like ash blonde." And I was like, "What? Blonde?
Ah,
How
the day
how do
of.
I go from brunette to blonde?" And so, I mean, it was a change, and I'm still looking at myself in this little corner going, "Who is that up there?" My granddaughter Emmy said, "You're not Yaya. Yaya has brown hair."
Oh,
But I mean, she was teasing me, and a lot of people haven't had any reaction, or at least any visible reaction. My mom said it doesn't look that different, and Olivia, another granddaughter, she's pretty. She notices things. She's observant, and she didn't say anything the first time I saw her. My sons, let's see, Micah said, "I like it." And Jacob said, "I like it." Jordan didn't say anything, but that doesn't mean anything necessarily.
mhm.
He probably is like, "It's different and I'm thinking about it." And John says he likes it. I didn't expect him to say anything different because he likes me. So he's going to be okay with it. But he's really the reason why I put it off as long as I did, because he would just say, "Well, I like it brown."
Mhm.
But I was just so tired of the upkeep, and yeah, all of those things you and I have talked about privately about when the wind blows, and you have all these roots that are white underneath showing. So I'm excited to see what it'll look like naturally. I've got, there's a lot of dark still right here that
Mhm.
it's growing in dark still, and my eyebrows are dark. So I know it's not all white, but we'll see.
I'm excited too. I can't wait. So between now and then, though, what is your upkeep going to look like?
So I have to do this again a couple of times, 2 or 3 more times, and they follow the pattern of your growth.
Oh, okay.
She follows the pattern of growth. So she can tell a little bit more about where the dark is and leave that alone.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I'm not real sure. There's a toner on it right now, which I said, "Well, what's a toner?" And she said it's a semi-permanent. It's not permanent, so it washes out. She also told me I wash my hair way too much. So I'm learning to use dry shampoo. Never used that before. I tried it and didn't like it.
Mhm.
And, it's mostly, I just like a clean, washed head of hair. And it feels, I don't know, it just feels different. And like one day over Christmas, I did 2 pounds of bacon in the oven. And so, of course, your hair absorbs all that bacon smell, and I can't stand that. You wake up at night and you're smelling bacon.
Right.
So I'm having to learn to get used to that, which is okay. I mean, I'm glad to not wash my hair as much. It's sure does cut down on get ready time, but yeah, it's a big change. We'll see.
New year, new you.
Yeah. Like it or not, it's here.
Well, did you have a good Christmas?
We did. We did. It's just over. So today, as we record, is January the 5th, and we had ours from January the 1st through the 3rd.
Mhm.
So, Christmas felt extra long this year. We put the tree up around Thanksgiving, and so it was up for much longer. I'm one of those day after Christmas, put it all up.
Mhm.
John calls me Scrooge. So we couldn't do that this year because we had to, wait till our Christmas was done. But it was nice to have that extra week of prep time, and I took advantage of some after Christmas sales, and
Right.
yeah,
Smart.
so it was good. Everybody was here. And like I told you, nobody threw up, which is always a good thing because usually at Christmas time or when everybody's all together, somebody throws up and then that starts the domino. But
Mhm.
we didn't have that. Um, we had lots of fun. We went and saw the David movie. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't.
Well, I actually didn't. Everybody went, and then Sophie got a little tired of sitting, so I took her out and we walked around, but everybody else got to see it except for Alyssa and Nolan. They stayed home. So we did that. We opened presents. We ate a lot. We ate and ate and ate. So it was a Christmas. So what about yours?
Oh, it was good. It was a little bit quieter because Carl and Emily and their family were in Georgia.
Mhm.
Um, but we did take everything down the day after Christmas because Neil still had a couple of days at home the way Christmas fell this year. So we took everything down. We've never taken it down that early, but we knew we were going to be out of town over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and that's usually when we do take it down. So it was, this when I look back on it, I feel like this was a sentimental Christmas. I feel like the gifts that the kids did and Neil did had this sentimental, I feel
Mhm.
like I cried the holiday season. And one of them was I don't know if you can see this or not, but Neil found me another African
Oh yeah. Yeah. Where did he find it?
in Africa. I mean, he didn't go to Africa, but he ordered it from there. And I've looked and I have not been able to find him. And the only difference is this is white gold
Hmm.
instead of yellow gold, but it has the tanzanite on there and everything, and it's the same size, exact same outline. I couldn't, and he stuck it in my stocking, which we always open last. So I was completely surprised. I mean, I was just stunned. So that was sweet and sentimental. And then I was going to show you, Janelle drew a picture of our house. Can you see that?
Oh, how
And
special.
painted
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
And put it in this frame. And then Gary and Chelsea made candles for everybody and these little tins, and also gave us
I
one.
almost leaned over to smell it.
Yeah, this one's in the shape of a moon. I don't know if you can tell.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then the so we opened gifts and everything, and I thought we were all done. And Neil said, "There's one more thing." And the room got quiet, and he said, "And it's for you." And I could tell by the look on everybody's faces, they were all, they all knew something about this. And I was like, okay. So he handed me a package and he said it was from Neil and the boys. And I started opening it, and it was like an old instrument case. And like a brown, old, vintage instrument. And I said, "This looks like a clarinet case." And I'm opening it up, and it is a clarinet. And I'm thinking, this is so sweet because my clarinet disappeared in the move. So I thought they just found me another one. Well, then Neil said, "Do you know whose that is?" And I said, "No." And he said, "It was your grandpa's."
Oh, wow.
And I just started bawling in the moment. I mean, so he's the one that taught me to play. He gave me private music lessons every week from the time I was a child. And he would play his wooden clarinet, and he has a glass mouthpiece, which is
Hmm.
kind of unique. And I always wanted that. I asked for it when he passed, and I didn't get it, and that's fine. But they all reached out to various family members and managed to get a hold of that and gave it to me for Christmas. And I mean, I ugly cried. Like every time I'd try and get it back together, I'd
That's so
start crying again. And I was like, oh, well, Jude was there. And he's like, beep, beep. And I can hear Janelle going, she's happy crying. She's happy crying. I was like, sorry, sorry.
Oh, how sweet.
Oh my goodness. So I now have my grandpa's clarinet. And the very next day, Neil and I went into town to a local music store and we have sent it off and we're getting it completely refurbished. Like they're replacing all the cork and the pads and straightening up some of the keys and and they said that it'll be in like pristine playing order when they're done
Wow.
with it. So,
I didn't even know you played.
oh yeah, I do. It's been a while. My embouchure is out of shape, if you will.
Did
But
it still have the glass mouthpiece?
yes, it had both. It had the regular one and the glass mount. In fact, when we took it into the shop, I was kind of geeking out with the guy that was looking it over. And he was like, "What have we here?" Because he's seeing the old case and he opened it up and he went, "Oh." And then he went, "Whoa." And he pulled it out and he was like, "This is so cool." And I was like, "I know, isn't it?"
Oh, that's
And I
amazing.
found
That's so
out that
thoughtful.
he plays the clarinet. So it was neat. But so it was a
Wow, that took a
sentimental.
lot of thought and a lot of effort, and that's very, very sweet. Not surprised at all. That's just a neat gift.
It really is. Yeah.
Something about, the memories attached. It's more than the object, but it's the memories that's attached to it. So
It
well
has,
done.
yes, well done. It has his old reed case with a couple of old reeds in there that you could tell he had played because they were kind of chipped. His old cleaning rags, his old the little clip that you put on the clarinet if you're doing like a marching band music where you actually attach it to the instrument, one of those was in there. I mean, just all this stuff. Is somebody there in your house?
I was thinking that John may be trying to get to his keys or something. I just
Oh,
heard
okay.
something,
Yeah.
but
You
he's
started
staying
looking around a
there.
little nervously. I was like, is the boogeyman breaking in right
It's
now?
like I wondered if he comes in to get his keys, is everybody going to see him? Yes. So well, he's in there, but I don't know what he's doing. Well, that's very cool. I'm happy for you.
Mhm. We also had Christmas at my sister's house. And she went over the top with all the fun games and stuff that we did. And so that was great. And Neil and I went and played pickleball over the break. I was not playing well that day, so I wasn't
Nothing
very
to
fun.
report, nothing to see.
That's right. I wasn't very fun to play with there. I was like, I don't understand why you get so frustrated. I'm like, I know you don't.
Competition.
Yeah. And then we were gone over New Year's. We went down to Gulf Shores with some friends of ours who have a condo down there and spent some time with them. And we've never done before. We've never traveled over New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And so I was so confused all week. Like, where am I? What day is this? What's going on?
Have you ever gone down there during the wintertime?
I don't think so. I mean, I grew up mostly in Florida, so I've been down, but I don't remember it. And we kind of brought a lot of layers, sweatshirts, sweaters, things like that. And the first couple of days it was chilly, but by Friday it was sunny and 70.
Hmm.
So we didn't, get in the water or anything, but Neil and I did walk the beach. We ate a lot of good seafood. We had ice cream every day. Played a lot of games. We went with Kevin and Kim Eubanks. We played a lot of games with them. So, and then last night we had a baptism. So lots of good things have happened since the last time I talked to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. I'm excited for everything going on there. Well, we are going to Hawaii tomorrow. So by the
Woohoo!
time this airs, if I get it, like, I guess we can talk later about the switch. We're going to do a little bit of a switch as far as me uploading things and whether or not that's going to happen this week. But if all goes according to plan and I get it uploaded and this airs next Monday, a week from today, we will have been there for almost a week. So it was I don't even know how to say this, but it was a gift. This trip is a gift from people, and we don't know who it's from. It was
Yeah.
organized by some friends and they wanted to do it anonymously. And so it's very humbling, very exciting. So we are going to Maui for a week, and we're going to watch for whales, and we're going to ride bikes and eat seafood. And I'm not a huge seafood lover, but I mean,
But I'm
that
gonna need you to
kind of
eat some for
seafood,
me. So,
I will do it. I mean, I love, there's some kind of ocean seafood that I really do enjoy, halibut, and I don't even know if that it's around Hawaii, but I know John's right there. But his legs have not seen the sun since about 1983. And I don't want anybody to worry that we're going to be going and doing immodest things, but we'll probably get in the water, and he's not going to wear pants in the water. So I have some Cell Tanner. He
are you
does
gonna
not
make
know
him use?
this. I'm going to try it on him because I'm afraid that if he gets in the water, that the fish are going to think that that's some kind of a reflective lure or something. So we're going to try this self-tanning lotion, and hopefully the only thing that is bad is that it's medium to dark.
Oh no, you
Because
need
I
my
ordered
visual
this
support.
yesterday, and the only one that I could get here today was the medium to dark instead of the fair to mediums.
All right. So
And
how do we get pictures of this?
I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll be sure to report how it turns out.
Oh man.
Maybe I could do a little, a close-up picture or
Yeah,
something.
just
I
the one
don't know.
little square, one little
Yeah,
knee.
a kneecap. Okay. He may have something to say about that. I don't know. Hopefully he didn't hear me. So, what else is going on?
Well, I did want to mention that Hillary Hammer hosted the Teen Girls
Mhm.
Saturday night. Of course, by this time this airs, it'll have been a week earlier, but for a devotional, like food and devotional and Bible marking. So I got to teach Bible marking, and they invited some of their friends. So I think there were about 16 girls there
Nice.
that showed up. She hosted them. They call it a barn, but it's like a little outbuilding that looks like another little house, basically, that they host a lot of fellowshipping types of events out there. Um, but it was Sydney Elkins' idea, and she's one of our teen girls to do this and plan it. And when I showed up, she was saying, I've got you a whiteboard over here, and I thought we would eat first, and then Ashley Waddell's going to give a devotional, and then you'll do the Bible marking, and then we'll play a game. Like she had it all organized, and just really took responsibility for it. And I was thinking, when people do that, especially teens, I wonder if they realize how encouraging it is for
Yeah.
everybody. Obviously, it's encouraging for the teen girls that showed up to fellowship together and hang out together. But I wonder if she realized how encouraging that was for us as adults to see her initiative to
Mhm.
plan that. And she's the one that asked Ashley to do the devotional, asked me to do the Bible marking. And so for her to see her take the initiative and plan all that was encouraging for us.
Yeah.
It just made us feel good and proud. And so that was a good thing.
Well, that your Bible marking is such a good practical thing anyway, but it's an activity. It's not just sitting and listening, but you got your hands on and you're doing something. And so it's great for all ages, but especially for, I think, kids that I say kids, young women who um you just retain more because you're doing it. You're involved in it. You're not just listening to it. So what a
Right.
great thing to be doing. I'm glad that's going well.
Well, it was kind of funny because Hillary, when I showed up, she was there. Of course, they're setting out the food and stuff like that. And then she said, "I'm not going to be here very long," because it was also her son's birthday. So in the main house, she was in the middle of getting his birthday dinner ready, which was, steak and mashed potatoes, and she was going to be over there for the birthday celebration. So
Yeah.
she agreed to host this, knowing that she was also having to host a birthday party for her son. So I was like, that is impressive.
Well, that's Hillary. And
It
speaking of
is.
Hillary, you probably got one of these too, but she sent
Yes.
to get one like this.
Yes, I
And
did.
I love it. It's not a typical apron. It's got the crisscross straps in the back. Mine does that.
Pop over and get mine real quick.
It's not called an apron. What was it called? It's like I can't remember what it was called, but I wore it at Christmas time. It has a
Yeah.
little a little thing to put your towel in. So I love
It,
it.
yeah. Oh, it's not mentioned on here. That is called something different. Here's my pattern.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I already washed mine.
Yeah, I haven't washed mine yet. It still smells like Christmas.
Yeah, they're
These are the
beautiful.
sweetest.
Hmm.
I wanted to mention a couple of good things coming up. One of them, of course, is Equipped, and that's in April, just to kind of give everybody a heads up. April 23rd through 26th, and I know you'll talk more about that, but I thought about it because I wanted to mention Focal Point, which is coming up in just a few weeks. It's going to be January 21st through the 25th in San Marcos, Texas, hosted by the University congregation there. And, I had invited my friend Heather Southard, and she said, I thought that was just for preachers. And it's advertised as a preacher's workshop, but there's so many things that are good for everybody. So I just wanted to mention that lots of good things coming up, but those two in particular, the Focal Point in January and Equipped in April. So good
Good.
stuff.
I'm glad you thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have
very good.
anything else before we get into our topic?
One more thing that I wanted to mention.
Okay.
A friend of mine reached out to me about her daughter. And, we had this little matchmaking exercise a while back with a young man
That's right.
who was looking for a wife. And I kind of, I put that out there and then I backed away because I didn't want to be in the middle of something he might not want me to be in the middle of, even though I inserted myself regardless. But this young woman is looking for a spouse. And I know her and I know how sweet she is. She's very, very kind. I would say she's um, maybe a little more introverted, but not painfully so. She's just not extroverted loud. She's just maybe a more quiet young woman. She's almost 27. She has great knowledge of God's word. Her mother, I didn't know this about her, but her mother says she's great with money, she's great with people, and she's just interested in meeting someone. So I know that she has been to, well, I don't know that she's been to PTP. I know that her parents were there last year, but I think she probably was there, and maybe she could come to Focal Point or Equipped or something like that. But also, just want to put that out there. So if anybody knows young men that are looking for, looking seriously, not just looking someone to date, but and obviously, if you express that you're interested, it's not a marriage proposal. It's just that maybe you'd like to meet her. She is beautiful. I will just say that she's beautiful inside and out. So, if you know
How
somebody that's
exciting.
interested, let me know, and I will pass along the information.
One-stop shopping here, folks.
Anyway, that's all. That's all I have.
Okay, well, and I did want to insert here before we get into our topic that we're doing something, we're adding something at the end of these episodes. So stay tuned for that. In addition to the something good for you, and I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so we're talking about three approaches to life, and Neil had run an article. He does a daily email thing called the Daily Bread. And a while back, a few weeks back, he had run an article called Three Approaches to Life, and it was by Dan Williams. And it was just a really short article based on Luke 15 and the account of the prodigal son. And if you remember that, that's where he tells the parable of a man who had two sons. And one of them goes ahead and asks for everything that he has coming to him, and he takes off and goes into the far country and he just blows it all, lives, riotous living, blows it all, wastes all of his money. It does not go well for him. We remember that he ends up feeding the pigs, which for a Jewish person would not have been an ideal job. And he's so hungry that he ends up eating what's being fed to the pigs. So he finds himself at this low point and comes to himself and thinks, how many of people in my father's house have food and more to spare? Maybe I'll just go back and see if I can be reinstated as a servant in my own father's house. And of course, we know that he starts making it, he came to himself, the text says. He starts making his way back home. His father sees him from afar off and runs to him, embraces him, welcomes him back, throws the party, kills the fatted calf, gives him a ring and a robe. There's a huge celebration, which leads us to the older son, the other son. And he does not handle that well, the homecoming. And he's bitter and resentful and even says to his father, I've been obedient to you all these years and you never threw a party for me and you never killed the fatted calf or put a ring on my finger. And that's when the father says, everything that I have is yours. But our son who was lost is back and, all that kind of stuff. So that's the parable. And this article is based on it. And he talks about three different approaches from the three different individuals mentioned in that parable in Luke 15. So the first one he calls living it up. And this is one approach to life, living it up. And this is based on the younger son and that path that he took that you can start reading about in verse 13. And for the longest time, I think I've even mentioned this somewhere along the way on this podcast. For the longest time, I thought the word prodigal meant wayward because we even sing a hymn, God is calling the prodigal, come without delay. So I thought it just meant somebody who walks away from God, a wayward person. But the word prodigal means wastefully extravagant.
Hmm.
And I think we can kind of compare that to not just our resources, and how we use our money, whether or not we're good stewards of our money, but think about that in light of our life in general and what we're doing with it, or, the time that God has given us, being wise with this life that and the people that God's put in our life. So really, you can be a prodigal in more than one way, more than just with money or the resources that you've been given and how you choose to spend your life. So living it up is the younger son and the path that he chose. The writer of the article said that he left his father to make his own way. That he rejected that home life and the path that his father had laid out for him because he wanted to go off and do his own thing. He didn't even want to wait until the inheritance was supposed to come to him. He said, "Give it to me now." Because he just wanted to go off and do things his own way and be led by what he wanted, And I think about um, this whole heart mantra of do what makes you happy, do what feels right to you. This is your life. You don't have time to worry about anybody else. And I kind of feel like that's the modern day version of that. It might not be that we would ever go up to somebody that, we have money coming from and, say, give me all my money and I'm just going to go out and blow it all right now. But there are ways that we have this kind of living it up mentality or that we can, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And it just occurred to me while you were talking that I imagine he didn't leave intending to just blow it all. So
Hmm.
it was probably just a lack of care and concern in that regard to, be, you know, unintentional about how he spent that inheritance. But um, they were just different things that I thought of with those words, living it up. In a way, it's like saying to God, I don't trust you to give me the plan. I just don't trust you. I'm going to do it my own way. I know what's best for me. Or, and another way of looking at it is that maybe he was saying, yeah, I know that you know what's best for me, but I'll get to that later. Right now, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's so self-centered. And the way I think Dan even says in here, both of them are self-centered, but it seems like this guy is so much more. It's like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do, or I'll think about it later. It's just one of those unintentional ways of living is do live it up and do what you want to do rather than doing what your father wants you to do or doing what your father has laid out for you, like you said. So,
I think this approach to life can also include a world focus. The exact opposite of what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast from Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2, set your mind on things above, not on things of the earth. If you've been raised with Christ, set your mind on things above. And the parable, it seems as if the prodigal son, it just wants to take in as much as he absolutely can. He wants to experience it all. And he goes out there and lives it up and plows through all his money. And lo and behold, he finds himself empty and alone. Where are all those friends that were partying it up with him and enjoying all that spending and the good time and the party life, where are they now? And look where he ended up. But it doesn't have to be that drastic of an ending for us to experience the pull of making the most of the world, making the most of what we have right now, and um, gradually, not that any of those things are wrong that we might emphasize in this world, but sometimes we can gradually get pulled to where it becomes a higher priority than it should. The things that we enjoy, our homes, or entertainment or pleasure, there's nothing wrong with those things as long as they're in their proper perspective. But it's so easy to get earth focused and world focused, and the here and now and what we see around us, and wanting it to be the very best. I want to be as comfortable as I can be. I want to be as in control as I can be, and make my own decisions and schedule out my life. And, it seems like the longer I think about it, the more different ways I can see where we pick up this living it up mentality without even realizing it.
Mm. My parents would always call it a shallow mindset. That's the word that they would use maybe more often than they should have. But someone is shallow when they don't have any depth to them. So when I think of shallow, I think of just you have your feet in the water. You have your feet in maybe you're walking along the edge of the water if you want to think of the water, the ocean as the word of God or spirituality. And someone like this young man just was living shallow. And maybe he didn't even have his feet in the word at all, but rather than living intentionally in the way that God wants us to live and launching out into the water and swimming around and trusting the water to hold you up and trusting the Lord to provide what you really need to make you content and happy and at peace. You're just walking along the shoreline and living a shallow lifestyle.
That's a good image for it. And we do need to remember that it didn't end well when he was living that way. It did not make him happy. How many times do we ourselves or people that we love keep chasing after a happiness that seems so elusive? And it's because, you can't be unless you go to the source of true joy, which is God, and live things according to his way. And the example that Jesus gives of this prodigal lifestyle ended in misery. It was brief. The whatever pleasure he had was brief,
Mhm.
and it ended in misery, and he ended all alone. But we also need to point out that he did something about it before it was too late.
Mhm.
He did come to himself. He did see the contrast between where he found himself versus where he could be in his father's house.
Mhm.
And so once he turned his life around, and went back to his father and went back into his household, I mean, the contrast there of what he experienced from being isolated and all alone and in the mud, the muck of the pig pen, to embraced as a son, not a slave, given all of the best things that he had to offer, given that love and compassion, and finally he realizes what he had all along
Yeah.
in his father's household and what he gave up to go chase things of this world. And so then he had true security, experienced true love, and had that foundation of the love and support of a family and where he's supposed to be. So I love that layer of the story that in the account of the prodigal son and his, very poor choices, it wasn't too late for him to make changes. And, as we're talking, we have breath right now, recording this podcast. Anybody who's listening, you have breath right now. It's never too late. And if we see that, especially this time of year, I love resolutions. I know we've talked about this the past couple of New Year's. I love the whole fresh start thing and the resolutions thing, but especially this time of year, what a good opportunity we have to do a little heart check and say, am I chasing the right things? Where are my priorities based on how I'm spending my time and what I'm pursuing? And are there some adjustments that need to be made? Is my life filled with turmoil, loneliness, isolation, instability? If so, why? So it's a good time to consider, have we kind of drifted into this approach to life, this living it up approach?
That it's kind of awkward to bring up a country western song in the middle of this, but Jordan, my oldest son, brought this up the other night. We were in a conversation about something else, but when you gave me the topic, it made me think of this, and it's called The Mustang by Cody Johnson. He had sent a link to me a while back because we trade songs. I mean, we both just love the meaning of songs, but this made me think of the prodigal son. And some of the words are, I used to run just like a Mustang with my head down in the wind at a pace too fast to recognize the places that I've been. Living up my years of freedom like the words to a song, I found myself believing that I can make it on my own. Till I wound up on my knees one night on the side of the road where I cried and said, I'm willing. Where you need me, I will go. I was finally tired of running wild across those lonely plains. I surrendered all I had and let the master take the reins. And now I'm free. I'm not scared and I'm not running. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm free. I know from over there it might look like captivity, but on this side of the fence it feels like free. Often looked upon as beauty when the Mustang runs and bucks, some criticize the ones we ride and pull behind our trucks. But they were put here with a purpose that the wild ones have yet to find. Like me, they just need breaking down to open up their eyes. And the chorus goes on, but then he says, now who's to say the Mustang won't be better off this way, having someone he can count on so he don't go astray. He don't sleep with one eye open. He's found peace within these bounds. And I found a life like this is every bit worth settling down.
Mm.
It's a beautiful, beautiful song, talking about people who think that they want to live free. What's free to them is to be able to do whatever they want, like this young man who went off to the far country and spent everything he had and lived riotously, and yet what he really came to understand was that he needed those boundaries and he needed his father to lead and guide him. And once you realize that, and once you see that peace is not found and happiness is not found in running wild, it's found in trusting God. And so I thought that might be something neat to think about with regard to this topic.
That's perfect. Yeah, you couldn't have picked a better song. That's perfect.
It's a neat one.
All right, the second approach is grudging duty. I almost don't want to talk about this one. Grudging duty. And this is based on the older brother in Luke 15. And some of the statements that he made to his father when his brother came back. Verse 29, all these years I've been slaving for you, and just the fact that he was so quick to point out all of the good things that he's done, and yet he never got all that attention. And he couldn't even bring himself to be happy for the return of his wayward, missing brother, younger brother.
Yeah.
And maybe it's hard to envision that. I'm trying to think, I have a younger sister, and I can't imagine having this kind of heart at her return in any scenario, any scenario like that. But the emphasis on his whole attitude is one of, I did my duty. I kept up my responsibilities. I was obedient to you like I was supposed to be. And it really reveals that his heart did not do it for the right reasons. It really showcases the motivation behind all of his years of service. It doesn't sound like it was loving. It doesn't sound like it was because he wanted to honor his father or be the best older son or any number of noble motivations. He did it out of grudging duty. This is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to do it, and it's because I have to. And that really comes across in some of the things that he said. The author said his resentful response revealed his true feelings toward his father. So, not just his feelings toward his younger brother, or his role in the family, but also toward his father. And he also wrote, his obedience was a grudging, ungrateful duty. So you have the younger son who wandered off because he didn't realize what he had. But you also have the older son who didn't wander off, but still didn't realize what he had. And the father has to say to him, everything I have is yours and always has been. He has to remind him of that. He has to remind him of his relationship with his brother. When you go through and read the text, it's always struck me that the older son can't even bring himself to say the words, my brother. He says, this son of yours. I've done this and I've done that, but this son of yours comes back and you do this for him. And his father gently reminds him, and he calls him your brother. So we really get insight into his heart. And the whole point on this approach to life is, yeah, you may be going through the motions and doing the right thing, but what's your attitude like? And are you doing it as joyful service because you're grateful for everything that God has done for you? Are you doing it because you love people? Are you doing it because you are humble and you want to serve? Are all the things that Christ calls us to do when we read about putting others before self, honoring others before self, showing love and compassion and grace? All of those things are supposed to be what motivates why we do what we do. But oh, how I can see myself. And sometimes doing what I'm supposed to do, but with a bad attitude,
Yeah.
you know. And as ugly as it is, I know I've been there and I've been in that situation where I've been bitter and resentful. Um, Maybe for even doing the right thing and it not turning out the way I thought it should. And it's terrifying to get a glimpse into that kind of mirror and see this is what that looks like, and it is not pretty.
Mm.
And so, I'm thankful for opportunities to revisit an account like this and see that this can be and for a Christian. The first one you kind of think that person wanted nothing to do with his father's house and he was just living the worldly lifestyle. Well, that's not me, so I'm okay. I'm a Christian. I go to worship. I do all these things. But then you come to the older brother. This parable is about both sons. I remember hearing Mike Vestal teach a lesson one time and said the fact that it starts out by saying a man had two sons, even though we call it the prodigal son, this parable is about both sons. And we have to learn from both of them. And maybe this older son is where, as Christians who haven't wandered off into the world, or out there living it up, if you will, in worldly choices and lifestyle, but maybe we can find our heart in this situation of obedience without love, cold obedience, resentful obedience, self-righteous obedience, and view toward other people. And so this is another approach to life. And in the beginning, I mentioned that this shows what we find important in life, and that's because that's how the author concludes the article. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the end of the third approach.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things came to mind. First, I know it's a parable, so maybe, it might not be necessarily a real family, although he could have based it on someone that he knew or came across or noticed. But how much do you see this in real life? The difference between the two brothers and the conflict that happens between brothers or sisters or just family members, and not necessarily blood family, but church family. When you think of this, the younger brother who wanted to go live it up, and then the older brother, the way he responded, and like you brought up, calling him your son, this your son, not my brother, but your son. It just kind of makes me wonder about conflict before, how much conflict, if it was a real family situation,
Mhm.
what kind of conflict had they been in? Did they hate one another because they were so different?
Mhm.
Because they were so different. One of them did his duty grudgingly. The other escaped and ran away from his duty. So you know that there had to have been clashes
Mhm.
because of the difference in personality, the difference in usually it is the older child that's more responsible and that's going to do what they're supposed to do because they're just raised. There's something to birth order.
It really is.
Yeah. And then the young ones who tend to run off and act first and think later. So what kind of conflict would there have been? And what kind of conflict do we see now between family members, between church members who they just don't understand one another because they think so differently and they act differently and they have different character traits or personality traits. And so what do we learn from this parable about how we ought to feel about one another, regardless of whether or not we understand how they think and how they feel and why they do the things they do? But then the other thing that I thought of was that, and again, I think he even said something in the article about how both brothers are so self-centered and
Mhm.
selfish. The younger one is he just does what he wants to do. But the older one, when you look at the parable, he says, I served. I never neglected you. I didn't get a party. So it's all the I, me stuff. So how is he any better? He's not. He's not any better. There's just different sin involved in what he's guilty of. And you're right. You and I both identify more with the older brother because I don't think that you and I do things grudgingly all the time. I know we don't do things grudgingly all the time, but there, of course, are times that we get jealous of someone that gets attention, or we're well, I have done all of that. I'm tired of doing it because I do it all the time, whether toasting. Why can't they do it this time? I'm just tired of it. There's all those things that we fight in the back of our minds. And it's just a very self-centered, very unchristian like response. So those are the things that I thought of with regard to the older brother.
Yeah. And I think we can also look at how we approach worship and coming together with fellow Christians. What does our face look like in worship? Now, I'm not saying we can judge people because we've talked about this before. You can be fully engaged and have a face that looks mean
Yeah.
or disengaged and it not be an accurate representation. But I still think we need to consider how our posture is when we come to worship. Are we, showing up and worshiping and singing praise joyfully and with everything we've got? Are we happy to be together, happy to come to the Lord and to give and sing and pray and offer and learn and all of these things? And to be with fellow Christians and to spend time with them and encourage them and admonish one another like we're supposed to do? Or are we showing up because that's what we've always done and that's what we're supposed to do? And check, I was here on Sunday. That's a huge one. Is your worship week by week? You may be faithful, which is important. Don't get me wrong. But why? And what are you bringing when you come? And, or are you just grudgingly showing up for worship because that's what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
There's really no enjoyment, joy, love, giving, heart preparation, sacrifice, nothing.
And we all have those times, but this kind of thing is good to kind of shake us back into the right mindset and the right attitude
Mm-hmm.
because things happen. Our life happens and it affects how we approach everything. But just this reminder of like what you're saying is how are we approaching worship? How are we approaching the privilege that we have to be in God's presence?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. So the third one is joyful love. And this one, of course, is based on the father's role in the account or the parable. The joyful love was represented in his view toward both of his sons. So, when I gave the review of the parable, I mentioned that the father was watching for his wayward son to return home. He saw him from a distance, the text said, and ran to meet him. So there was not the least bit of grudging forgiveness there. I mean, he was eager to welcome him back home. He was watching for him. He ran to him. He embraced him. There was no probationary period there. He installed him reinstalled him as the son of the house and showered him with all these gifts to let him know how happy he was. This is a celebration. And we know, of course, that this represents our Father in heaven and the love that he has toward his children and how he wants them home and he's watching and waiting for them to come back home and wants to bless his people, but also his patience with the older brother. Um, the way he speaks to him, it's like he's just like he kind of understands where he's coming from. He knows it's not right, but he understands. He probably knows his son. And I can almost envision him just laying his hands on his shoulders, son, all that I've had has always been yours,
Mhm.
and yes, he's like affirming him. Yes, you have. You've been a loyal son and everything I have is yours and I love you. But your younger brother has come back home. He was lost and is found. He was dead and is alive, and so he's reminding him of that. Really, he's patiently working with him and teaching him. And he didn't say, well, your attitude stinks. You're disinherited. Your younger brother's back. I don't need you anyway. Goodbye. He doesn't do any of that. He just reminds him, all that I have is yours.
Yeah.
And so we see that compassion and that patience in how he treats the older brother also. So that's that joyful love approach to life. And wow, the example here is in relation to other people and how we deal with other people, people that are close to us, people that disappoint us, people that don't act the way they should, how we treat family, how we offer forgiveness and grace, it's all there. What we wanting the best spiritually for others so that we're watching out for them and doing whatever we can to make it easy for them to come back home. There's so much there. And this approach to life on joyful love would color everything, every interaction, the choices that we make, the way we spend our time. It's kind of like taking those first two approaches, which were not good, each in different ways, and having that motivation in our heart of agape love necessarily and automatically shifts that and puts our focus where it should be. It all of a sudden changes how we spend our time and how we interact with people and what motivates us to serve. It's because we love others and we want what's best for them.
Yeah.
And we're eager with that, not stingy with it. We're eager to give and share that love and lift others up. So those are the three approaches to life. And so I think I jotted down the exact words of how the author worded it. Yeah, so he said, this is how he kind of summarized those things. Between the license of the younger and the legalism of the older stood the father's compassion. Between the unrighteousness of the one and the self-righteousness of the other stood a father's mercy. He loved both of his sons, even though they rejected him. Both sons were self-centered, each in their own way, and so both were dead, if you will. But the father, with his unselfish love, understood what life is really all about. So that's why in the beginning I said, what do you think life is all about? And how we approach it kind of lets us know how we feel about it.
One of the things that I thought about the father and that makes me realize how unlike the father that I could be was how he was unconcerned with how the actions of both of his sons affected him. You know, he lost half of his wealth to his younger son, and yet he didn't ask any questions about that. He didn't hold that over his head. And then to me, what would be the even more difficult is the attitude of the older brother. I don't know, there's just something about a person like that that frustrates me.
Mm-hmm.
Just this, it just makes me, repels me. And it's probably because I have a problem with that myself, because that old saying, to search your own heart, what paineth you and others in your own self may be. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably because I struggle with being that way, the way of the older brother. But yet the father was not concerned either way. And it even says that the father pleaded with his older son and reasoned with him. And whereas I'd be like, you are being disgusting. Go to your room and think about
Go to
it.
your room. That's right.
Go to the corner. And, I just have no patience for that. And yet God does. And it just is such a, it's such a reminder to me that how much more work I have to do to make myself look like God and be like God.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm glad you brought that up. And to not discount anybody. There are people that we might feel more compassion toward because of their Maybe they came from a hard life, and of dysfunction and neglect and who knows what else. And we feel compassion for that. And we want to do everything we can to help them see the love of Christ.
Mhm.
But what about those other people that just drive us nuts and we're impatient with because they should know better?
Yeah.
You know, equal compassion here in the example that we're being given. Equal compassion, equal time,
Mm.
equal love, patience, grace, because it's a soul. Yeah, and I like what you mentioned about him being unconcerned about how it would affect him or what others would think. And, I don't think I've ever looked this up, but I've always heard that when he ran to his son, that statement right there showed something because, Jewish men didn't run. That was considered undignified. You wouldn't catch them dead doing that, but he was just so eager that he didn't care about that kind of stuff. He just ran to meet his son. So he was just so not focused on self.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the heart of this whole entire what is your approach to life? And the father who had every right, really the only one in the account, the only one in the story that had every right to be focused on what he had and his rights and his own self, wasn't at all. And that really came across in how he interacted with both of his sons.
Yeah. I think it says that he fell on his neck, and I think that it actually means that he knocked him over.
Hmm.
If I remember, and I didn't look it up. I'll have to look at it again, but I think he actually like knocked him over, and that's not very dignified, but it just shows the measure of his joy. So we need to be more like that. I
Well,
won't knock you over, but
yeah.
I'll hug you.
Well, the last thing I want to mention is, we have to find ourselves in one of these three approaches, and they all affect others, whichever one we're in. So, which approach am I living it up, the begrudging one or the joyful love? Because I am affecting the people in my life around me, the people that God's put in my path, for good or ill. And that last one, can you imagine how the younger son felt
Mm.
when he was making his way home and the closer he got? I mean, I can almost feel my stomach flip for him.
Yeah.
He's just wanting to, he's not even thinking he has a shot at being reinstated in his former role. He's just wanting to ask, is it okay if I serve here? Because at least I'll have shelter and food. And he's probably feeling a little more anxious. He's lost all that money, brought shame upon his father's house, just humbling himself and making it right is not an easy step to take. And the closer he got to home, the more anxious he had to feel. But can you imagine that first glimpse he had of his father running
Mm.
toward him? And then for his father to just embrace him like that unreservedly.
Mhm.
Probably, there were tears. The relief, the surprise, the joy, the sheer, instant healing almost in that moment because the father chose to react that way. And so that that approach to life affected the younger son. It had to have in such a huge, impactful way. So when we think about this, it's not just us and whether or not we have true joy and happiness because of how we're choosing to live and what we're choosing to focus on. But it affects the people that God has put in our path for us to love and encourage and lift up too.
Yeah. A university congregation in San Marcos is the first place I've seen this. I've seen it since, and even at Bear Valley and Cumberland Trace and places like that. When someone goes forward, as we say, we call it going forward. When someone comes to confess sin and ask forgiveness, and I've seen it where that person, it's like a walk of shame. Maybe someone got pregnant out of wedlock, and here they have to make this public confession, and that is something that um, will some will require. And I understand if it's a public sin, it needs a public confession, but it's almost like this walk of shame that you have to endure so that
Mm.
you can be forgiven and move on. And yet, at those congregations that I mentioned before, if someone walks that aisle going to ask forgiveness and prayers, people are following them. They pour out of the aisle into the aisle and follow them and sit. There's not room for all of them on the front row because they're being hugged and loved. And
I love that.
what if
Mhm.
we all we're like that, and not just in a, a setting like that, not in a public confession, but anytime someone comes to us, what if we were the kind of people that others knew that if they come to us, it's an automatic, I love you, forgiven, don't even think of it again. Let's just move on from here. I love you no matter what. Life would just be different if we were like that. And instead, it's often, well, like you mentioned earlier, that the period of proving yourself. Um,
Hmm.
it's just not like that with God.
Yeah, there's no probationary period, and we tend to do that with people,
Hmm.
whether we admit it or not.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Well, and like most things, I think we put kick our heels in because it's going to cost me something. It's going to cost me something to forgive or give somebody another chance, or we think it will. But as with all things, doing things God's way is the path to true peace. And
Mhm.
and if we had the Father in this parable's mentality, that joyful love of willing grace and all the things that we do, and giving way. Things don't always have to go my way. We don't always have to do things my way. Honoring somebody else over myself. Casting the light on somebody else instead of drawing attention to myself. Whatever cost I think is there, I think we find out there was none. And really, it was the path to true happiness and peace. It feels good. It's the right thing, and God knows what's best for us. So, doing things His way is not, yes, it affects other people, but it's also for our own good. And if you want this to be the best year yet, make that approach to life the joyful love one.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thanks. All right. Anything else on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, the thing that we're going to add before the something good for you is we're going to ask each other what we're having for dinner. Mainly because we like to talk about food.
Mhm.
And I'm always interested in when I see people post something about what they're having for dinner or asking for suggestions, I always read them because I always like ideas.
Mhm.
So I'm not really, I actually forgot about it until we started recording that we had talked about doing this. So I don't have anything exciting, but thankfully I do have dinner in the crock pot. So I have chili in the crock pot because I knew it was going to be a long, full day, and I just like to get something prepped in the morning, and so I don't have to think about it again. But I will say, since it's the start of a year, and I just had a whole week of bad eating, really a whole 2 weeks of bad eating, that I've changed my recipe up. My typical chili is uses refried beans in there, and I use store-bought beef stock, and I use chili beans, like canned chili beans, so they already have some kind of seasoning, saucy stuff with them. And so anyway, I was trying to make this as nutritious and healthy as possible. So I didn't use canned chili beans. I've got black beans in there. I usually use the chili seasoning mix. I didn't buy that. I just used my own spices. I've got chicken stock that I made in there. I added more vegetables. I usually just do onions and garlic, but I added some orange bell pepper in there, just to make it.
Mhm.
I've made some changes. So hopefully everyone will still love it.
You say you put refried beans in your chili?
Yeah, I usually put a can of refried beans in my chili.
Does that just add thickness or what? I've
It
never even
just
thought about
kind of
that.
gives it a little bit more depth of flavor, and yeah,
Hmm.
I've done that for years.
Never heard of that.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good to know. Well,
What are you having?
yours are always going to be more exciting than mine because you're better about prepping and thinking ahead, and I'm not. But we are going to have tacos. My tacos is my go-to meal if I don't know what to do. And I was thinking about something quick and easy and something that we will not have leftovers because we're going to be gone for a week.
Mhm.
So I can do that fairly healthily, if that's a word, because I've got the 96% lean ground beef. But I'm going to show I don't know what word to use here, but I love the Taco Bell spice mix for tacos. It's my new favorite
Huh,
spice mix.
okay.
Just like it. And I mean, it doesn't even, I can't tell you the last time I had a Taco Bell taco, but I used to use the old El Paso seasoning. And I just found that I like the Taco Bell better. So tacos with on to tostada shells because they're a little bit better. not on, John will probably have a flour tortilla, but I like the tostada shells because they're baked.
Mhm.
And HEB has that good green salsa that I'll use on it, and lettuce and salsa and cheese and that kind of stuff.
That sounds good. I love meals like that. We'll be doing something similar with the chili because you can kind of cater it with all the toppings. So I feel like everybody that comes to the table has different objectives or restrictions and that's always changing. So,
You never know,
so it's
especially this time of year.
exactly something like this, you can put it all out there. And if somebody wants the cheese and sour cream and chips, they can put it on top of it. Or if somebody just wants jalapenos and cilantro and, the lighter stuff. They can just do that with it. So I like stuff that they can kind of fix theirs however they want.
Yeah, lighten up. And it's still good,
Yeah.
even if you choose the lighter way.
All right. Do you have something good for us?
Well, I do. After we've just finished talking about healthy.
Mhm.
And I don't know if anybody can find it, but I found it at TJ Maxx or Home Goods, somewhere like that. But it is Funky Chunky's Winter
Funky
Mix.
Chunky. Well, I mean, it's fun just to say the name of it.
It is. So years ago, when I worked with Erin and her mom at Stitches and Such, we would go to market. And I remember this brand because we sampled it there. They had all the different samples, and it's potato chips covered in chocolate and pretzels in chocolate and popcorn in chocolate, and it's terrible for you. And I don't even like white chocolate. But I bought some, I bought 2 bags because one of them went in Erin's stocking because she loves funky chunky stuff. And when she opened it, she said, "Oh, I love white chocolate on potato chips." And I was like, white chocolate doesn't tempt me." But then I tried one, and I'm just gonna have to throw away the rest of the bag because otherwise I'm gonna eat it till it's gone. So it's popcorn, potato chips, pretzels, and a white chocolate drizzle. And it's
Yeah.
yummy, yummy.
Yeah. So this year I made your mom's marshmallow roll,
Hmm.
which I've decided to call chocolate salami because I think when you slice it, it looks like salami. But
Sounds gross
but
though.
that one recipe makes 3 big rolls.
Yeah.
3. So I sliced one up and I gave a roll to one of my sons. I sliced the other one up and I had it out on a platter, which maybe only one or two other people ate because I also made deep dark chocolate cake for our main dessert, which means I was the one
Yeah.
eating on that thing. And before we went to Gulf Shores, I made myself throw away that third roll because I was like, I'm the only one eating this and I will eat it all.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
good.
really good. It doesn't even sound all that good,
It doesn't. It
but
doesn't.
it is.
But it is toasting the pecans that makes a difference. And I also salt them. So you've kind of got that sweet,
Yeah.
salty thing going. Oh my goodness. But anyway, when I first got back, I was kind of bummed because I was like, oh, but actually it was a good thing. Okay. My something good for you is a little bit strange and it's also food related. So Gary and Chelsea shared this with everybody on Christmas Day. It's a little fun, weird, very strange thing that Chelsea used to do growing up. One of her relatives taught it to her, an uncle or somebody, but it involves these fat peppermint sticks that you can see and a lemon.
Okay.
Sounds weird, I know. But you cut the lemon in half and then you cut off like a maybe a 2-inch stub of this peppermint stick, this big fat peppermint stick, and you try not to get the end, but like cut off the end and then cut off like a 2-inch piece of it.
Is
You
that one of those soft peppermints
know
that
it's hard.
melt? Okay.
It's a hard one. It's like a big thick candy cane,
Okay.
except it's all straight, but it's a fat one. And then you take that little stub of it and you shove it down into the center of that lemon, that cut lemon, and then you lean over and you suck on it like a straw. And Gary and Chelsea were trying to say, we know it sounds weird, but trust me, it's good. And it actually does turn into a straw. And so they brought it for all of us to try. They cut off all the lemons, they gave us a paper plate, and we're all leaning over going, trying to suck lemon juice through this peppermint thing, which is solid. It's
Yeah.
solid. And so after a while, I start looking around and I'm going, is somebody filming this? Is
It's
this
a
a joke?
joke.
You're just trying to get us all looking, like ridiculous trying to do this because we did look ridiculous. And she was like, trust me, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just keep going. And I'm telling you, within just a couple of minutes, lemon juice started coming up through the peppermint stick. And when I first felt it, I went, it worked. It's almost like the acid of that lemon juice gradually eats its way up the
Mhm.
peppermint stick. And then when you taste it, it's not real sour lemon juice because it's come up through that peppermint stick. It actually tastes good.
Right.
But I thought this was the most bizarre thing we have ever done, but it kind of felt like a little party trick, you know? So that's my something good for you. I know parties are over, but the next time you have company over or the youth group over or any kind of kid or teen activity or whatever, try this little party trick. Cut off pieces of a big fat peppermint stick, dip it into a lemon half, and suck it until it starts coming up through the peppermint stick like a straw. It works and it's crazy.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. And it makes me think, who was the first person that said, "Hey, I'm going to cut off this
I
peppermint
know,
into a lemon and suck on
exactly.
it for a while"?
Yeah, I think we had that exact same conversation. Like, who in the world?
Wow.
If I suck
Okay.
on this long enough, I bet it'll turn into a straw.
Okay, that's bizarre, but I'm sure I'll try it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was great to catch up with you again. It feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
But to those who are listening who have joined us, thank you so much. We appreciate you. If you're new here, we do want you to also know we have a Facebook group called Looking Up with Kathy and Carla. Come visit us over there because we usually share pictures or links or whatever to anything that we've talked about. I'll go ahead and also add we are not affiliates. We do not monetize this channel. Anything we share is just for fun. And there's a lot of interaction with all the other women. So it's a great community. We'd love to see you over there. And Carla, if there's nothing else, until next time.
Keep looking up.
All right, love you. Talk to you soon.